one of my favorites that I got to work with. It was right around this time last year. Actually, it was week 16, though, that we called a game together in Tampa, Florida, between the Houston Texans, who could not be anywhere remotely further away from the team that they were last year, making their way. They clinched the AFC South that day against Jameis and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Things can change quickly, certainly as we saw last night. Future Hall of Famer, my colleague from NFL Network, Joe Thomas, here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Joe?
I'm doing fairly well, all things considered, but thanks for having me on, Rich.
You got it. I mean, that's a moral victory, and I know that the Browns would like to get out of the moral victory vortex that they've been in for quite some time. But I think we saw a team last night that just ran into a division opponent that knows them well, and a quarterback that's reigning MVP who got hot against them last night. I wonder what your assessment of last night's Browns performance was, Joe.
Yeah, as a coach in the NFL and as players in the NFL, you can never lean on and say, well, yeah, it was a moral victory for us, but we know better, right? For the Browns to be able to come back the second time after being embarrassed in the opener against the Ravens and fight back consistently throughout the night and to be able to make it a game down the stretch, prove that Baker Mayfield can run the 2-minute offense, be able to lead those comebacks that you expect a starting franchise quarterback to be able to make. I think they really got a lot of respect. They earned a lot of respect throughout the NFL, and I think they proved something to themselves. They do belong in the upper echelons of the AFC, which was kind of a little bit of a question mark going into this primetime game last night.
Well, I mean, 9-3 is nothing to sneeze at, and neither is 9-4. They hadn't been 10-3 since 1969, so it's been a long time for all that. But they have a top 5 rush game, right? They have a top 5 defensive talent, even though he came off the field because he was injured for a brief bit with his elbow in Myles Garrett. What do the Browns? I mean, how dangerous can this team be, in your estimation, Joe?
Well, I think they proved last night that they can play with anybody and they could beat anybody. When you have a great rushing attack and you've got a great pass rusher like Myles Garrett and you've got a quarterback right now who's playing his best football of the season, who's not making many mistakes, who, if the defense is trying to take away that great rushing attack, you can put the game on his arm. I mean, Baker threw 47 times last night for almost 350 yards, and I think he consistently showed that he's making the proper decisions within the pocket, using great footwork, delivering the football where it needs to go. And that was something that he wasn't always doing earlier in the season. And so for him to be playing kind of his best football right now in December, they prove that they've got a chance against anybody. If they're able to get into the playoffs, which I think they will, they're still in great position right now because they've got a bunch of the tiebreakers if it comes down to that down the stretch. But I think they can be a really dangerous team if they're able to get into the playoffs.
Joe Thomas here on the Rich Eisen Show. What has Kevin Stefanski done from your maybe inner working knowledge of what's going on in Berea and that building, Joe? What has he done?
Well, I think he's brought an attention to detail that the team and the organization did not have before he got there. And I think it's really worn off on all those players. It's rubbed off on all those players in that facility because you see that down the stretch. And I think he's built a resilient mindset that maybe the Browns didn't always have. Certainly when I was there was this mentality that, something bad was going to happen and it was going to snowball, and no matter what we wanted to do, we just weren't able to hang with teams. And you saw last night, they went down by 2 scores after Baker threw that interception. And for them to be able to fight back, there's a belief, a different belief in this team than certainly when I was there.
So how does an attention to detail make such a difference, though? I mean, how does it resonate like that to the tune of 9-4?
Because in the NFL, when you look at games, even when we were terrible, when we were 0-16, 1-15, you're playing a lot of close games, and most NFL games come down to 3 to 5 plays. And if you make those 3 to 5 plays, you win the game. If you don't make them, you can lose by 14, 21 points. And you don't know what those plays are going to be, but when you're focused on those little details, those little things that show up that you don't think maybe make a big difference when you're preparing during the week, those are the details and the things that show up on Sunday. They become those 3 to 5 plays that make the difference in a game. And so focusing on, you got to be good at all the big things, obviously, but focusing on those details is the difference in the NFL so many times on Sundays or Monday nights like it was yesterday.
Joe Thomas, my colleague from NFL Network, NFL Game Day Kickoff, future Pro Football Hall of Famer here on the Rich Eisen Show. Joe, you played 10,363 snaps in a row, so you didn't come out. All that said, you've been around the game quite a bit. Your assessment of Lamar Jackson's fourth quarter disappearance last night, IV or something else? What do you got for me?
Maybe something else. I got to say something else because I've been on the sideline many times when guys were cramping, guys were getting dehydrated, and the trainer just pulls up with the doctor and sticks an IV needle in your arm and squeezes a bag into you, and then you're good to go. So maybe the protocols have changed in the last 3 years since I've been out of the league, but as far as I know, if you've got the reigning MVP at quarterback, and he proved last night why he's the reigning MVP with so many plays that things broke down, he scrambles, and he gets the first down. Like, you just don't get that many places in the NFL. If that's your guy, I'm giving him an IV on the sideline in between plays.
Yeah,
I mean, if he has to come out and the defense is on the field, throw the IV in the arm, and then maybe you don't finish it on this drive, but you finish it the next drive. There's only one thing that I can think of that would take you to the locker room for about a 5 to 7 minute stretch. Depending on the literature that he has to read in there.
That's about to say. So you gave me a range there. It did seem longer than 5 to 7 actual minutes. I know it may have taken time to get there, but he definitely moved fast. We saw that. The body language and his teammates have since given credence to the non-IV excuse. RG3 tweeted out. Did you see the meme? Did you see the meme that he tweeted out, Joe?
I didn't.
He tweeted out he tweeted out DK Metcalf running down Budda Baker. Budda was Brown's lead, and then the words over DK Metcalf was Lamar after pooping. That was the with no fewer than 7 crying emojis above that photograph. Marlon Humphrey has since tweeted out his teammate Chris. Can you give us an update on Marlon Humphrey's poll question that he put out there?
Yeah. So Joe, Marlon Humphrey tweeted out, "Did Lamar wash his hands after his Paul Pierce stunt last night?" We're up to 17,000 votes. 60% say no.
How do you read the?
Well, that was always my fear.
Well, because you're
that was
alive.
always my fear when I was playing, because my hands were taped up like Ninja Turtles. I mean, it took me about 10 minutes just to tape my hands, because I would put my tape on my wrist, then I would put my gloves on, and then I had a thumb cast, and then I would tape everything to my wrist. And so if nature called, once that hand tape went on, there was no getting it off and like doing your duty and then washing your hands. Like, you were fully committed to either not using the restroom until the game was over or going without washing your hands, and not a good outcome either way. So you wanted to make sure that you got taking care of that duty before you got all taped up. And,
if you will.
It's a good question. I don't know if we'll ever know.
Well, I mean, again, it just seems his teammates are seemingly having a good time with it, and I don't know if to read anything into that other than the fact that they love this guy, man. And it does look like, the MVP of 2019 has arrived in 2020. Would you agree with that assessment after last night, Joe? Week before, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue that, because it was like when he had that little 2-week COVID stretch where he couldn't practice. So much focus early on in the season was about Lamar Jackson improving his down the field passing and being more of a pocket passer. But he didn't have that opportunity to be around his team and practice, and it's almost like he said, screw it. I'm just going to go be Lamar from last year, which is a different level of fast and quick on that field than the rest of the NFL players. And when he's out there and things break down, instead of forcing the ball down the field or scrambling around and trying to deliver the football through the air, he's like, hey, I remember I'm faster than everybody else out here. I can just go and run for this first down. And I think that's what you're seeing in the last couple of weeks. Certainly last week against Dallas, rushing the football, and then last night against the Browns. The Browns had no answer for Lamar when he got outside the pocket and tucked the ball and started to run.
A few more minutes left with Joe Thomas here on the Rich Eisen Show. So good news for the Pittsburgh Steelers is that the Browns didn't win last night. They're still 2 behind them with 3 to play. So it looks like the Steelers are our AFC North favorites despite having won 11 straight and now losing 2 in a row. I've got 2 pieces of unfortunate news for the Steelers I'd love to get your 2 cents on, starting one by one. First one is that they still have trouble running the ball. That's their problem. How do you fix something like that so late in the season right now, Joe? How does that get fixed, do you think?
Well, unfortunately for the Steelers, it's not something that can get fixed because the run game is all about being on the same page. It's all having footwork that's in unison, hand placement, combination blocks, shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, double teams, having the running back being on the same page, understanding who the read is on every play, and making sure that the offensive line is blocking exactly in the same realm as the running back, and they're on the same page from a mental standpoint of, hey, if this guy goes there, I'm going to go this way. And the only way you get better at that is practice and being together. And unfortunately, at this point in the season, you just don't get a lot of that. And this season has been sort of a magnifying glass for teams that don't commit to the run game, because if you're not spending that time in meetings and walkthroughs and practice working on the run game and the coordination that has to happen between everybody that's blocking and running the football, you're not just going to get better at it by having one guy play a little bit better. And I think going into the season, the Steelers certainly wanted to focus on their short passing game with Ben Roethlisberger getting the football out of his hand, and they've been really good at that. But I think because of the time that they spent working on their passing game and their lack of a commitment to the run game, now they don't have that, and teams are sort of starting to take away a lot of those short passes from Big Ben. They don't have that running game to fall back on that they had, and they don't have that physical mentality that Steelers offenses had been known for so long.
And then the second other piece of unfortunate news, even though their 2-game losing streak still has them 2 in front of Cleveland, is it now has them looking up at the Chiefs. Which team in the AFC, Joe, do you think has the best shot of preventing a back-to-back Super Bowl appearance for the defending Super Bowl champs? Which one?
Can I be a homer and say the Browns?
No, of course you can. No, you can.
That's always the safe answer, right? Because nobody in Cleveland's going to get mad at me for saying that.
No, I hear you.
Here's how I build the case.
Go for it.
I think with the Browns running game, you can minimize the possessions for Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
And that whole strategy for the Chiefs is we just want as many possessions as we can, because we know the deviation from the mean is not going to happen if Patrick Mahomes gets the ball more times than the other team. And so I think for the Browns, that running game would be the key weapon. You know, their defense is going to give up a lot of points to anybody. I mean, they gave up 47 to the Ravens last night. But if you can go into that game and potentially maybe get some bad weather and say, hey, we're just going to shorten the game, we're going to squeeze the football, we're going to run the ball with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and as long as Baker doesn't turn the ball over, we feel really good about being able to shorten the game, score some points, and keep it close, and then hopefully you're going to be able to have that football in that last drive and run the ball and either expire the clock with the running game or get down the field and score right as time expires and not give Patrick Mahomes the chance to get the football back. Because I don't believe in the Steelers right now. They're fading at the wrong time, and I don't know if I see anybody else in the AFC that really has the kryptonite that you need to be able to stop Patrick Mahomes. No, I mean, nobody's got that.
Well,
and so maybe the best way – yeah.
No, I don't blame you for saying the Browns, because I've been saying over the last couple of weeks that the team that beats Kansas City or can beat Kansas City has to, as you say, limit possessions. I was saying essentially the same thing by keeping Mahomes on the bench with a run game, with an ability to, confuse him best you can defensively, and then have a quarterback who doesn't make mistakes and play action passes when the run game really has the Chiefs all softened up. The Titans are a team like that. The Browns are a team like that. Mm-hmm. The Bills can be a team like that if they can run the ball with the same effectiveness that they ran the clock out on the Steelers on Sunday night in the last 7 minutes of the game. Other than that, the Bills' running game concerns me. But that's the way I'm sussing it out right now. Or Lamar, maybe. I don't know. But the Chiefs have had Lamar's kryptonite. So that's the way I'm looking at it. Could Phillip do it? Could the Colts do it? You know what I mean? We just saw what the Dolphins did, even though they didn't have Gaskin and Van Noy. But could Phillip do it? Do you think? What do you think?
I just don't believe that Phillip Rivers, being more of the traditional pocket passer and being that their running attack is not as good as it has been, I think you're onto it right there. Like, I don't think anybody can have better odds to beat the Chiefs, but I think if you're going to do it, it's going to have to be done on the ground. Minimize possessions, like you said, play action passing, run the football. Hopefully Patrick presses and, is not able to get into a great rhythm like he usually is because he's not getting the football as much, or the stretches between him touching the ball are longer, and you're able to maybe just kind of kill the clock a little bit. And maybe he makes a couple mistakes that he doesn't make usually, but I'm not betting on it.
Joe, thanks for the time, man. Really appreciate it. And let's do this more often. I really love watching you on our network, and let's chat down the line. Thanks for the call.
I appreciate it, Rich.
You got it. That's Joe Thomas. He's going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.